Hello, and welcome to the Vanguard Lights. Hi, I'm Fractal Future, and as I said, this is the Vanguard Light channel, and the Vanguard Light is you. Check out this crystal, it's pretty cool. You can do amazing things with crystals, but you're not here for that. You're probably here to find out how I split into 200 parts and then found the secrets to the universe. Actually, not the secrets, the keys to the universe. The keys opens the door to the universe. So let's jump into it. So how I split into 200 parts, 200, possibly 200 plus, comes from a thing called DID, Dissociative Identity Disorder. It's actually something that shows up. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, well, that's made up and stuff like that. Actually shows up in a brain scan, which I had, and it showed up. So basically what happens? How does that work? And how is it split into 200 parts? DID used to be called, it used to be referred to as multiple personality disorder. So it's the situation where you have, multiple personalities, and it's a nightmare if you have it. Oh my gosh, I hope you don't have it. Please say you don't have it, because man, DID sucks. But it is magical. There's a reason why. There's a spiritual reason why I got it, and actually led me to developing this warp gate technology. But a little example, how is this? How did I split into 200 different parts? And it's the magic of the brain to survive. So as a child, 0 to 5, going through a lot of trauma, your brain is developing, right? And so one of the ways it does, there's also you come in as now we're gonna get spiritual, a little less medical, where you come in as a being of light, right? And there's some inherent truths that as a being of light, in certain ways that you're supposed to get treated. And when your treatment doesn't match up, your being of light kind of is like, hey, wait a second. It knows when the treatment ain't right. Also, there's a big safety issue. It's your physical body's like, hey, one, it has to attach to a stable human, and two, it wants to be safe. It knows that hey, there's this physical death thing. I need to survive. Being a light's like, hey, I could leave whenever I want. I'm a being a light. But the body's kind of like, no, I want to live, right? But there's conditions that have to happen for the body, for the person to live. And if you heard of failure to thrive syndrome, where babies just weren't touched and stuff like that, they could not live. They died. And this is kind of one of them. It's like a safety mechanism to where if your treatment isn't correct, the mind, the body, the person or the child will make themselves wrong to justify the behavior they're not getting, right? So they make yourself wrong, justify the behavior. But then when you have a whole bunch of trauma, right, to where the mind can't handle it, it's too much, right? And you'd have that situation where it'd just be we're checking out. So one of the ways in which it cannot check out is it kind of starts putting everything in box, puts feeling states, so to speak, into little boxes. So you don't really know, you're not in presence to oh crap, tomorrow is going to be a nightmare. You're kind of well, no, if today was a nightmare, it got put in a little box. Tomorrow could be a brand new day with a completely new outlook, right? But most likely it's going to be the same thing. But then it's a whole new experience. It's seeing and experience. It's oh, it's all brand new. Wow, it really sucked. Let's put that in a box over here and separate from that box over there. And don't put it together that, wow, these are all connected. And this is a whole bunch of suck that's going to come. It's no, it's fresh and new every day. Yay. So anyway, that's kind of the mechanism which I split into many different parts. And it wasn't until later on way later on my spiritual, I guess what you call a spiritual adventure, so to be, or healing adventure, that I found out, even knew that it was DID. Actually, I'd done a technique, it's from one of this book of love yourself like your life depended on it, right? And a lot of it was just saying I love myself, 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 just intensely. And I did it for 3 weeks, 24/7. And because of the DID, I could actually be talking to people while saying it and going in my head and I was big on, I went pretty hardcore on a lot of things. I even did a fast for 28 days, but that was more from a torment from this whole DID thing and just having all these kind of voices in my head and tearing at me and didn't know where to go with stuff. And so that's why I ended up fasting, because I was kind of I'm gonna fast. The one thing I knew they couldn't make me do was eat. All these voices, I'm you can't make me put food in my mouth. So that was kind of a way in which I was grabbing agency of well, I'm not gonna eat. until this ends. And I didn't have a time frame on when that was going to be. I was just like, no, I'm going to try to grab the one thing that I can control. So anyway, I go intense. So I went and I did that. And that's what kind of, I don't know, all of a sudden, it like just clicked in. It was like, okay, go to this website, look for this one thing. And it was a website that talked about Herschel Walker having DID. And there happened to be a lady in Austin, I was in Austin at the time, that treated it. So I ended up going to it, and she was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And she was amazing. Oh my gosh, she was a hero. Totally helped me integrate a whole bunch to get a handle of it and help start putting together of like, wow, okay, this makes sense. Or like one day I'd be like, oh my gosh, I want to be in the Olympics. I'm gonna be a volleyball player. I have all my training mapped out. It's the greatest thing in the world. Next day I could not care less about volleyball. And I'm all like, what is going on? And it was definitely, that's like one of the nice, easy ways in which it happened. But man, it's a nightmare. But it did create this amazing technology. So God's got a plan. God's got a plan. And it's, there is super magic, and there's always a spiritual reason, and there's always a spiritual solution. So it was a hard road, but a lot of magic did come out of it. So that's how I split into 200 different parts. But what about this universe? The keys to the universe. Okay, so in the process of getting out of that, it really involved, because you gotta imagine it's like having like a school bus of 200 traumatized kids, right? All pissed off, and like sometimes they take over driving for you, and you don't get to control that. Like they'll just be driving, and you're just like, wow, it does not work for making them life of your dreams. It does not work. And then going and healing, like say you take a kid aside and you want to heal them and help them, or like just imagine just if you gave them ice cream cones, right? If you gave a kid an ice cream cone, like 2 or 3 of them out, right? You couldn't scoop the ice cream fast enough that those kids aren't gonna turn on you and attack you, because you can't give like 3 ice cream cones out and then have the 197 not have ice cream and be okay with that. Same with like healing. It's like, I heal one or bring great upliftment, but then all the other ones are like, hey, what about me? And then there's oh man, like it just got like just a battle going on inside. There's always was a battle, but man, it just amped up, right? So I needed something of like, how am I going to do energy work on all these different parts at the same time, because I had to do it. Like there's only way I got free. So I ended up combining like building these unconscious teams, because your unconscious mind is a superpower, right? So it's like, okay, if I get my unconscious mind to do the energy work, then it can multi-parallel that process and work on all the different, see, engineering background, computers, yeah, that's where it came from. I'm like, maybe if I do that, I could just, like wire it together. And man, I made about like 500 unconscious teams, and it takes about anywhere between 20 to 40 minutes, and it's like going into your trauma to build them, so it's a little, kind of hurts. But anyway, I built like 500 of them, and it worked. Oh my gosh, it worked amazing. Like I was able to heal so much trauma, so much of that torment. I actually have a dream about walking. Like I could have a dream about walking in this woods. I never had dreams like that. I had dreams about like I would be getting chased by 20 ninjas, and then they'd be chopping off limbs, and I'd be chopping their heads off. And that all those, like when you're dreaming, all those parts are you. So that's just a massive infighting. I don't have that anymore. It's such a blessing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So anyway, so I built this massive kind of like parallel clearing technology, and through all of that and all those different parts and all that different clearing and stuff like that, it really fundamentally came down, like most of it came down to safety, which is, that's kind of like how it started off. But I saw with my friends too, of like, it was coming down to safety, like that is like kind of almost the gate to move forward of like, if you're not feeling safe, there's only so far you're going to go. Like you'll take a couple steps, but then a couple steps back. Ever had that with the personal development? Like, you're super happy, excited. This is going to be awesome. My whole life's going to change. And then you loop back to like, man, I'm still dealing with the same issues. Oh, this is going to be so awesome. My life's going to change. Loop back to the same issues. And it's kind of like this safety bubble. Like you can go a little bit, but not too far. A little bit, not too far. Or you push really hard, but man, you got to stay on the gas the whole time. You know what I mean? It's like you let off the gas, it's like starts crumbling, and you're like push, and it's like the grind, the hustle, the push. It's like you'd think getting better and stronger and all that, it'd be like an upliftment and just kind of keep getting easier. It would make sense if there wasn't something always pulling you back. And that's that safety. That's these safety chains. So being an engineer, being an athlete, making this stuff really tactical, I'm not going to tell you about all this and be like, oh my gosh, everything's related to safety and good luck. No, I wouldn't do that to you. So I actually have a safety course that goes in and gets to the fundamental, where these fundamental, I call them energetic chains that kind of locked you in of like where you're being, like you came in, right? You come in as a being of light, but you're tied to this physical body, right? It has to get taken care of by someone else. And it kind of looks around all these other physical bodies and it's like, okay, I came from infinity, man. I can freaking do anything. And now I'm in this physical body and I'm kind of stuck. This don't work so good and I can't take care of myself. Okay, other physical bodies around, I'm going to energetically look into them. What are they doing? They've got magical abilities, but they're just all inverting them. It's like, wow, okay, if I invert all my abilities, do I get taken care of? Oh, it looks like I do. Oh, that's what I do. Right? So it's like, oh, you're in a physical body, you invert your spiritual abilities, right? But that's not true. Now that you've got agency, you can move, you got ability, you can take care of yourself, you can protect yourself. Now you can open that up, you can crack it all open, right? So I have a course that works on the fundamentals, cracks it all open, and what's the best part of it? It's free. In the link, description below, come to a page, enter your email, boom. I'm giving the course away free. It's my release warp gate. And it's going to work on the fundamental safety issues that change. I mean, it's like it unlocks that. Once that unlocks, it just opens up all types of different energy work. Because I don't have a personal thing of like, oh, well, what that? I mean, I've done so many different types, and they all work at times, and they all seem to work and don't work. But it's a safety bubble. It's just safety things. I built something using this massive parallel technology that you don't have to learn. I packaged it up as a warp gate, right? It uses your unconscious mind to connect to it to run all these clearings. You don't have to know about it, and that just opens up the safety to where it just gets you back in touch with the greatness of you, right? It's like, man, that barrier between you and your greatness is so darn thin, but it's so tricky, right? And it's all locked. The beginning part is locked with safety. So you do all this other work, but you don't have safety, you're never going to go far. You got to get it to where, one, it's safe to be safe. So that's the first thing you do, is going to, like, especially with any kind of trauma, PTSD, it does not feel safe to be safe. That like gets you amped up, right? So first you get safe to be safe, and then you start getting safe to unlock like the core things of like, you're inherently lovable, you're inherently matter, you're inherently worthy. Like, unlock those things, because that is a spiritual being, that's inherent, but you're probably not experiencing that, right? But to get to that, you got to have it be safe. You can't be like, hey, I'm inherently lovable, and then you get the arrows in you and you're dead. No one wants that, right? So you got to get the safety level. I mean, obviously that's not going to happen, but it feels that way. It feels like I'll lose love. I'll feel like I won't matter. I'll feel like, I'm not worthy. All that stuff, you feel all that, right? That's because of that inversion. And you can't unlock that if it's not safe to unlock that. So check out the safety course. It's awesome. You'll love it. And there's not a big learning curve. I mean, it literally takes, like, I call it a bundling. You bundle up the intention and you're going to send it off to the warp gate. That takes like 5 minutes. So there's nothing to lose. You just go in, bundle it up, and you start getting massive change. So check it out until we talk again. Oh wait, also subscribe to the channel, please. Subscribe, like it, put notifications, because I'm releasing probably a video every day, so we'll get some good stuff for you. And any of the other, that's just one of the warp gates. I got a lot of the warp gates, so got a lot of cool stuff. Put in comments of stuff that you want to see, stuff that you want cleared, warp gates that you wish existed, and I'll get them in there. So until we talk again, have a blessed day or a blessed night.